The goal of faith without works is dead is not to just work, 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 and not listen to what God is telling you. God said to sleep. So you have to rest as well. It's disobedience if you don't rest. Getting older and having children has taught me anything. It's the importance of sleep and rest. Back in my 20s, I fought against sleep. I was #team no sleep, which meant that I took pride in getting very little to no sleep. But I quickly realized as I got older and had children that sleep and rest is not only an absolute joy, it is essential for optimal function. And it's unfortunately something that we fight so hard against in our society. #team no sleep. And we also carry around this mantra that resting and sleeping is unproductive and in fact lazy. And in some contexts it is, but when you're always go, 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 or you have this mentality that I used to have of, I got only 1 hour of sleep. How much sleep did you get? Oh, 4? Oh, you're lazy. I may not have said it out loud, but it was definitely the thought in my mind. And I want to impart to you today 3 things that I've learned over the last couple of years, but have really put into practice over the last few months on a journey toward getting adequate quality sleep. I want to impress upon you the importance of that sleep. I don't really have a lot of tips to give today as I'm still working on it myself, but I want to encourage you to start looking into getting quality, restful sleep and intentional rest. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that sleep is, if you think about how important water is to your survival, you can maybe last 3 days without water. You can only last 11 days without proper sleep, without it being incredibly detrimental to your health. I should say it that way. You can last 40 days without food. And so if you think about those numbers, sleep is, I'm not going to say it's more important than food, but to optimally survive and optimally thrive in our world, you can only get by with 11 days of no sleep. And so that's an extremely important number to realize and recognize how important sleep is. The first thing, however, that I want to talk about today is the fact that sleep humbles you. It reminds you that you are human. You're not larger than life. You're not meant to carry the world on your shoulders. You're not meant to be in an absolute constant state of stress and movement. Our bodies need rest. We are not God, although even God, it says in the Bible, took a little nap. He rested after he was done creating the world. He took a rest. Rest is a sacrifice, but ultimately it humbles us. It reminds us that we're human. I learned of a song years ago, I Hope You Dance, by Leanne Womack, and there's a line in that song that says, I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. And when I heard that line years ago, I want to say it was maybe back in high school. When I heard that line, I thought, why would this song that sounds like it's supposed to be encouraging tell or say, I hope you still feel small when you stand behind the ocean? Why would this song, why would these lyrics find that encouraging? And it bothered me for a while. But as I continued to mature and develop, I realized it actually is encouraging, because as we go through life, we feel this pressure to take on all of these things, to be Superman and Superwoman, and to appear as though we don't need sleep, to appear as though being strong means not having emotions. But that's a topic for another video. But that we don't need sleep. We wear as a badge of honor the lack of sleep that we get. Look how important I am. Look how disciplined I am. Look how I'm sacrificing this thing that is necessary or that feels comfortable. We think it just feels comfortable, but it's actually important. Look at me sacrificing this comfort for this goal I'm in pursuit of. Not like you all you lazy people over there. But what we're not realizing is that we are actually sacrificing something that is so important. And in fact, it may be a question of your time management. If you're not getting the sleep that you need, you may actually have a problem with boundaries and time management. And so getting adequate sleep humbles you because it reminds you that you're human. And I found a verse in the Bible that says, "It is vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep." And that's Psalms 127:2. He gives to his beloved sleep. But I think it's interesting that this verse says, it is in vain that you wake up early and go to bed late. It is in vain, because that phrase in vain has two meanings. And the first is, when you do something in vain, you do it without success or without the intended result. Isn't that interesting? So you're working hard, you're sacrificing not comfort, but an essential activity in our day in order to pursue this thing out of arrogance because you think you can do it on your own, when in fact, you can't. You can't do it on your own. You can't sacrifice. You shouldn't sacrifice this sleep because you're going to end up killing yourself because of the lack of sleep you're doing. You're slowly dying on the inside faster than you would had you been getting this sleep. But also, when you do something in vain, to do something in vain, vanity, is to do it with excessive pride. And again, it is an arrogance that we think that sacrificing sleep and sacrificing rest is important or is something that we should be doing. And we wear it as a badge of honor and a badge of pride when we do that. You need sleep. Be humble. Take the sleep you need, recognizing that it is not comfort. It is an essential activity that will actually allow you to be more productive and more optimized to do the very tasks that you're sacrificing sleep for. You'll be better. You'll do them much, much better. And the second thing is that sleeping and resting, which I'm using interchangeably, I'm not sure if I said that, I'm using sleep and rest interchangeably because we fight so hard against both in our society. Even though they're two technically separate things. But the second thing is that sleeping and resting allows God to get to work. Biblically, God puts Adam to sleep so that he can create a helper for him. He puts him to sleep, takes out one of his ribs, and he basically creates Eve, who is his helper. Well, why did he put Adam to sleep before he does that? There are more than likely more than just this one reason that he puts him to sleep. But I think it's a great illustration that he puts him to sleep so he could get to work. He could do something. How many of us have lost a phone or some keys or some object and cannot remember where you put it? You're actively searching, and then you finally just sit down and say, okay, let me just sit down and stop actively moving. Let me rest for a moment. And then you remember where that thing was or where that thing is. You go straight to it, you find it, and it's like, yes, you rested. And in that moment, God was able to speak to you and say, hey, it was over there. Or your mind cleared up, depending on what it is. Your mind cleared up, and because you cleared your mind for a moment, you stopped actively moving, you remembered where it was. Or you're having a dream, or you're thinking about something so much, some solution to a problem you have. And you go to sleep finally, after maybe tossing and turning, you go to sleep and the answer pops up in your dream. Has that ever happened before? And you wake up, you're like, I know exactly what I need to do. Many things have been invented through that very means, through a dream. Because your mind is working still as you're sleeping, or your brain is still moving and active as you're sleeping, and which is how we're able to dream. And then those thoughts and ideas come to you in that dream. It's my belief quite often that it's God speaking to you in those dreams, that those solutions come to the fore. So number one, sleep humbles you. It reminds you that you're human, you're not larger than life. And number two, sleeping and resting allows God to do the work he needs to do. People will say faith without works is dead, and that is 100% true. faith without doing something that God has told you to do is dead. You cannot function in that way. Just pray, and not actively move on the things that God is saying. But the goal of faith without works is dead is not to just work, and not listen to what God is telling you. God said to sleep. So you have to rest as well. It's disobedience if you don't rest. And the third thing is that sleep and rest strengthens and repairs you. And this is both biblically and a little bit scientifically as well. Although, of course, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor, but I have learned something that I think is very, very interesting. Elijah in the Bible, he is running away from Jezebel. Jezebel is this evil woman who has threatened to kill him. And Elijah is a prophet. So he's running away from Jezebel, and he finds a spot and he cries out to God and he says, God, I just want to die. I want to die right now. This is too much. I can't handle it anymore. He takes a nap, which how many of us, when we're in an anxious moment or something really bad, we just got some really bad news and we're upset, just go to sleep, right? That's what we do when we're kids too. So much emotion and adrenaline and whatever other chemicals are running through our bodies, and we just need to take a nap. And then an angel comes and he says, wake up, eat something. And then he eats and then he goes back to sleep. And then angel says, wake up again. He wakes up, eats something. And then God says, now he's able to hear God. Notice, he had to take a nap. He had to rest. He had to remove all of that from his body, all of the anxiety that was going on in his head. It has to go away first. Now, when that anxiety is removed, he can hear from God. And God says, I want you to go over here to this spot and I want you to listen for my voice and or his instruction. And so God says, Elijah moves over to that spot and he listens for God's voice. And the Bible goes through different scenarios where like there's fire and there's crash and there's thunder. But God wasn't in any of those noises, this wind, this loud wind. God wasn't in any of those loud noises. God's voice came in a still, small voice, is what it says, that he only could have heard if he was quiet, he had been rested. Because we're in a heightened state when we're tired, right? We're in a heightened state, we're in a stress state when we're tired. So it's not as easy to hear from God in those moments. Need to rest so we can hear. But also, so strengthened and repaired in that way that we can now cleanse ourselves and hear from God properly. Also, in a physical sense, if we're active all day, that sleep is the only time we have to literally rest and recharge. We build up a lot of toxins in our bodies as we move throughout the day. Think about a cut you might have gotten. Think about just how tired in your mind you are. There's a lot of toxins that enter into our body throughout the day, and we're actively moving. Our brain needs to work. Our other body parts need to work. When we sleep, that's when those toxins get cleared away. It's a housekeeping mechanism in our brains that allow the toxins to be cleared away and removed. That can't happen if we're not sleeping. And I have read that many believe that dementia is more likely, they're at an increased risk the less sleep you get. I've read numbers as much as 20% increased risk of dementia. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If we're not cleaning out those toxins, if we're not allowing our brain to clean out the toxins in our minds, what's happening to those toxins? They're building up and building up and building up. And so, of course, something is going to go wrong in our brains, unfortunately. We need that rest. So number one, get some sleep because it humbles you. It reminds you that you're human, that you cannot be God. You can't. And that is such it's supposed to be, and it took me years to realize that is supposed to be a liberating thing, to understand that you are not Superwoman. You are not Superman. Get some rest. Do not work in vain and out of your own pride and arrogance for something that is not even going to happen as well as maybe you will attain success. But how much more could you have attained? How much more good could have come from you had you rested and slept and been obedient to that instruction? And number 2 is to get some sleep and rest so that God can do the work that he needs to do. Faith without works is dead, but it's also obedience if you do take that rest, like I said before, and allow God to do the things that he needs to do in you and in the area surrounding you, your circumstances, your situation. And then the third thing is to make sure that you understand that sleep and rest are important because they strengthen and repair you. If you're upset, take a little nap. Calm your body down. Allow your body to be calm so that you can be strengthened and repaired. You can hear God. You get a cut, it starts to heal. Your muscles grow. Your brain is cleaned out. All those toxins are cleaned out of your brain. Rest is 100% productive. Take some time. Be intentional about sleeping, getting adequate quality sleep. Like I said, I'm not going to give a lot of tips. This video is just to encourage you to start the journey to accept that sleeping and resting is important. Go do some research. I may post another video about some tips that I've used to start getting adequate restful sleep. But of course, I'm still working on that myself. Starts with the mindset shift, though. You have to understand that it's important to get that sleep and to get that rest.